President Trump wraps up a multi-day visit to the Middle East with stops in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. What does he hope to achieve? With analysis, I'm joined by foreign policy expert, co-host of the War and Freedom podcast, Dr. Walid Phares. Walid, what is the significance of these meetings? And tell us about the deals between the U.S. and these Gulf countries that are being announced.
Very, very significant what has happened. The president went to Saudi, Qatar today, the UAE. These are three major players in Middle East politics, in Arab politics, and relationship with the United States. But let's be clear. On the business level, on the financial level, it was a smashing victory. You know, 600 million up to $1 trillion from Saudi Arabia. That's big. 1.2 billion from Qatar. That's also big. But 1.4 trillion from the UAE. So this alone could act against our debts. Just this volume, it's enormous. Of course, there were other political matters. Number one is basically, to call on the Islamic regime in Iran to stop their support to terrorism, and then call on all the other Arabs to encircle basically that regime. And last, probably the most important to me, is the Abraham Accord. There was a clear call by the president directly to Mohammed bin Salman that you should come and join the Abraham Accord. That's the vehicle, that's the tool for the future.
Yeah, but Walid, I thought Saudi Arabia was already a participant in the Abrahamic Accords. Was I wrong in that?
No, it was not a formal member of the Abraham Accord. What the role they played. I was part of the genesis of these conversations, summer 2016, and I remember I spoke with you about it at that time in the fall of 2016, early 2017. Saudi Arabia played the role of convincing all these partners who came to the front, the UAE, Bahrain, and later on the other countries that joined, that go ahead, go. I'm here to make sure that the jihadis are not going to play games with you. It happened in May of 2017. And of course, during the summer of 2020, the formal document was signed, and Saudi was always expected to continue. But problem was, and we had that discussion, is that in 2020, Trump didn't win. And we had another administration, which actually paralyzed the Abraham Accord, paralyzed all the projects of Trump for 4 years. So now it is as if we are out from that grave and back to action and moving towards the second phase of the Abraham Accord.
Yeah. President Trump also held an extraordinary meeting on Wednesday, Walid, with the president of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, just a day after announcing that the U.S. would lift sanctions on that country, a move that would ease the economic stranglehold on the nation that is seen as central to stability in the Middle East. He received a standing ovation for the announcement. Tell me the impact of lifting those sanctions.
I'm going to tell you two stories. The formal story, which is basically Trump is going there, and in coordination with his Arab partners, we're talking about $3 trillion. And of course, his ally, the main ally, Mohammed bin Salman, the next one, Mohammed bin Zayed, and they asked him, they said, look, we need to stabilize Syria. For them, it's very important. Otherwise, Turkey will go in. Otherwise, the jihadists will go in. So he accepted to do two things: a photo with the leader of that government, and second, a commitment. He asked him, you want to recognize Israel? He asked him, you want to come to the Abraham Accord? That's the Julani. Reality is that the second story is that it's a challenge, and we'll see how they're going to do it. Julani is still the head of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, which is a jihadist organization, on our terror list. So there is a risk, there is an attempt to create the conditions for a reform by this organization. But two conditions are on the front. Number one, hey, recognize Israel. Number two, more important for discussions you and I had, do not persecute the Christians. Do not persecute the Alawis. Do not persecute the Kurds and the Druze. That's the internal challenge. And once President Trump will be back with conversations with Congress, there will be a road plan for HTS, the rulers of Syria, to be accepted fully by the international community.
It's a very practical approach, I have to say, Walid, using these economic levers to move the culture and frankly, promote peace and instigate peace in the region that has been elusive for so many years. President Trump also indicated that his administration might accept this gift of a Boeing 747 worth an estimated $400 million as a gift from Qatar. He calls it a great gesture. Lawmakers on both sides have raised questions about this, Walid, about the ethics of taking this gift. Aren't there security concerns to be considered here? Not to mention the ethical questions about, I mean, you're talking about replacing Air Force One or the current Air Force One.
Look, in view of the other dangers that are surrounding us, of the threats of jihadism right and left, yes, I understand those who say accepting a gift, regardless of that gift, if it's 100,000 or if it's hundreds of millions of dollars from Qatar, is a problem because Qatar is at the same time a supporter of Hamas, of many jihadi organizations. But in view of the bigger dangers that we have, in view of the fact that this is transparent, I mean, this is a plane that will go to DOD, which will look at it. I don't like the symbolism of it because it's coming from Qatar, but by itself, it's the least of our problems worldwide. And then if it's accepted, if it's checked thoroughly on the security level, I would be worried about other things that Qatar is doing than, gifting that plane to the U.S. government.
Yeah, well, the government can have it, turn it into a, they can do humanitarian missions during crises and things. Yeah. I don't like the idea of the president running around on it, and certainly not, when you have an entire cabinet officials and given the sensitive communications on Air Force One. I just don't like that. On Wednesday, Israeli airstrikes hit northern and southern Gaza, killing at least 70 people, Walid, including 24 children, according to local hospitals and health officials. Now, this was a day after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there was no way he was going to halt Israel's offensive in the Palestinian territory before Hamas is defeated. Walid, is an end to this conflict even possible anytime soon?
Well, first of all, Raymond, it's taken too long. As a historian, I remember I was a kid at the time in 1967. The Israeli army took Gaza in 3 days. Now it's almost 3 years. And the reason is that the previous administration, the Biden administration, for 2 years and a half, has been delaying Israeli action and calling for ceasefire and calling for negotiations with Hamas. I mean, the Israelis can move, but every time they move, then they have this call for ceasefire. They have to stop. It's more costly because every time they're going to try to move again, Hamas has changed positions. I hate to see children, women, elderly, just people, normal people in Gaza being killed during that action, because I have also been seeing, and I don't know if I reported this to you, that there are thousands of Gazans demonstrating against Hamas. It's online, it's on YouTube. They want this war to end. The Israeli public wants this war to end. So either we're going to go quickly and finish it so there will be no more civilian casualties, or we're going to stay in the same position.
Yeah. Hamas on Monday released an Israeli-American soldier, Idan Alexander, who had been held hostage in Gaza for more than 19 months, Walid. He's the last American hostage to be released. What do we know about the remaining hostages, and what of the remains of hostages that must be returned at this point?
I remember on the second week after October 7th on your show, I just projected that the reason for why they took all these hundreds and hundreds of hostages is to buy time, is to stretch the time. They did it in 2 years and a half. They are proposing one hostage, then another hostage, then they suspend the negotiation. And even they could think of keeping a few for them when the leadership may leave the enclave if Israel really takes over. That has been a disaster, keeping those hostages, not resolving that problem for the first 6 weeks. And now, of course, they are releasing the last one because they know that at one point, President Trump is going to the region and then proposing a final act in this conflict. So they want the final act to be in their advantage, not in the advantage of the Israelis. That's why they used every single prisoner, every single hostage till they get to the negotiations, which are underway now on behalf of the Trump administration and hostages, moderators like Qatar and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Walid, we have to leave it there. Iran, an imperialist republic, and U.S. Policy by Dr. Walid Phares is available at bookstores everywhere and online. Dr. Phares, thank you.
Thank you so much.